Welcome to the 48-hour rule, a UteNation podcast. The 48-hour rule is now in effect.
Welcome to the Players Lounge.
Everybody, welcome back to another edition of the 48-hour rule, a UteNation podcast. As always, I'm your host, Alex Markham. Got my main guys with me, like basically all the time, right, boys? As much as possible. Derek Tuimauga, Zack Moss, how we doing?
Cold.
All good, my man. How you been?
Listen,
I'm good, man. I'm good. Derek, you got a turtleneck going, man. What's up with that?
man, I'm freezing, man. It's I miss Hawaii right now. I'm not gonna lie, guys, but we're good.
You gotta get the beard going a little bit more like me and Zach, man. You'll be a little bit more warm.
I know. Now that I'm like baby face and like, my chin, I actually have, some facial features. I've been trying to, keep it smooth.
I know, man. that jawline, right? For those that don't know, we were just talking. I started. This is my first day of doing a meal plan, so we were all relating on that. So pray for me because I had the biggest headache earlier, and it wasn't because of Utah football.
There you go.
So, right, man. So I've been joking, guys. It's like the last little while, and I know I've said it to both of you guys constantly. It's like, man, I get going so much on this stuff right now. There's days, the majority of the days, I can't even remember what I did 2 hours before, right? It's just been nonstop. It's starting to calm down a little bit, but then the portal starts heating up with some surprises, outgoing, and then some big pickups coming in, right? But that's stuff we can talk about. Maybe we'll get to it towards the end of this episode. Really, what I want to focus on now is, man, Morgan Scalley, he finally had his moment. They had the presser, and it was quite the presser. So really want to get everybody's thoughts on this, kind of have some back and forth. I'll tell you this, okay? From a personal standpoint, I've got plenty of people close to me that were diehard Utes for a very long time. Right, they were one of the original tailgaters back with Barberi when tailgating was free and everything. Right, had season tickets for years. Old Rice Stadium, Crimson Club members for years when it was just really, really reasonable to get. It's still reasonable, right? Shout out Rob Clark with all that stuff, but still, it was different back in those days. And the last few years of Kyle. The last couple of years, they've really kind of pulled away, and just got tired of certain things. And a lot of it had to do with the NIL and how college football had changed. But then also there was kind of the stuck in the way stuff that had kind of gone on. Okay. I know that's some of the reasons why there were the changes, because everybody looked at Morgan as so youthful, so energetic. And what I can say to everybody, especially that line where he says, I'm one of you, those type of lines, and him just going off the cuff on that hit so hard with so many people. The amount of people that I've talked to, or that have even just dropped into my DM saying like, Alex, man, I was out. I'm in. I'm sold. What did you guys take away from that press conference?
Yeah, I would just say, to me, you couldn't have started off on any better foot for him. It really just set the tone. So much of that is just the optics of, what are you going to get, right? And there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of circulations. The last couple of weeks have had a lot of heated emotion, right? And really, any other press conference really could have been just like, in my mind, you look at these press conferences when these coaches are introduced, they're very, I don't know, kind of cookie cutter, cut and dry. You know what they're going to say. They're going to say, we're going to play hard on defense. We're going to do this. We're going to throw the ball. We're going to develop this, and this. And like as an outside coach coming in, and I even caught it with Coach Whittingham, as he's been on making his rounds and saying things like "Go Blue." Like when you're an outside coach and you come into a new program, it doesn't really land. Like you can just tell, like it's new to them, it's foreign to them, and they're just trying to adapt to something. There is no adaptation for Morgan Scalley in this situation. Everything was raw and everything was very personal to him, and you could feel that. And so, you know, obviously there's a lot of growth. We'll see how everything continues to develop, but I think for me, what stuck out on that press conference was just Morgan Scalley coming in and really being comfortable with who he is and really showing Utah football fans, Utah football family, alumni that, like you said, Alex, like, I'm one of you. I'm a U boy. I'm in this from when I was a baby till now. You know, he bleeds this, and you could just tell that raw emotion and that raw excitement. I think it was felt by everyone there, people that, you know, I watched it on YouTube. And so, you know, for what that moment was, could have gone any better for Morgan Scalley and for the Utah football program.
For sure. And before Zack kicks into it, you know, I want to read the actual quote that you and me were kind of talking about. Okay. So I'm one of you, all of you that are sitting in here that went through the same thing. I'm a fan. I'm a Ute. Have been, forever will be. Okay. That's something that just, you know, there's teams out there, and Morgan acknowledged this, that there's teams out there that are going to use it against him, that all he knows is the University of Utah. But it's also a very powerful thing. And I think that that's something that really resonated with a lot of people yesterday that might have thought that other way as well initially. I feel like he really drilled that point home. Zack, let's hear your take on it.
From what I did see and then what you guys said, it was just Scalley being who he is, trying to be as super personable with everybody as he possibly can be. And I think that's what you want, because we didn't get that with Coach Wick. We never got a real look into, you know, like who he is. The players always spoke super highly of him, because we got to see like just how much on the field and off the field he cared in that way. And Scalley was really personable and everything like that. So, like you said, it went over well with a lot of people. People who, like you said, like thought they might be out or something like that. I think it gets everybody's juices flowing again. I think he hit that on the head from what I've heard so far. And I'm a watcher, but from what I've heard, it sounds like he hit it on the head on just like him just being him, being comfortable. And we've talked about it last time we were on here, and Weddle giving us a good insight on who Scalley is. Coach Holiday giving us a good insight on his time with Scalley as a coach, right? So for me, I'm hearing the same things, right? Just like the personal level that I didn't see from Coach Scalley, obviously, because I didn't play that side of the ball and I wasn't in his room. But I think a lot of the players that are going to be there are going to see that. And I can't wait to just like, you know, be around as much as I can be, just to kind of see if I can get that type of vibe as well. Obviously, all those things to translate on the field, but I know I've gotten only more excited to see what he can do. I know at first I was kind of like on the rails. I still am, just because I'm not a person who cares about hype. It's all about what the hell do you do, right? Like we can hype him up, you know, forever, and if it doesn't produce, then it doesn't really matter, right? So, but I am getting more excited as I continue to learn just about like the person, right, that he is. And I know like when you think about the coach and the type of person he is and how he operates as obviously a former player, that makes you think about what you would want to do for a coach like that if you were playing. And so far, I mean, everything I've heard, I'm just really excited for the guys that are going to come in there. He's really smart. All the guys that he brought into that safety room on that defense side of the ball, specifically the safety room, though, were all guys that were super smart. So I know that's just going to be his calling card just for overall and how the people who come in. And that's another big thing. So I don't think people have anything to worry about, like on the style of people he's going to bring in, the players and things of that nature. Obviously, you know, only time will tell on the results. And I did see him say something about a national championship. I did catch that. So that was dope to see, because I don't think we've ever heard. I don't think I've ever heard Coach Witt speak about that. I'm not even when I was there, and our best team was the 2019 team. We never spoke about national championship. All we spoke about, because I think that was the first year of the college football playoffs, all we spoke about was winning the Pac-12 championship, and then, kind of whatever happens after that, it happens, right? But I love to see that, because that's what it's about, right? Obviously, you got a 12-team playoff right now. Shoot, it may even, jump up to 16 teams, right? But the type of success that, the ACC is having right now with Miami, you never know how many more teams get thrown in this thing. You might add 4 more teams, and that easily would make it. These guys had a great year just now, and we're right there on the cusp of getting in. And I mean, 16 teams. I like our chances. I like our chances just getting in. But like I said, only time will tell.
You mentioned a few things there that I kind of want to touch on, right? Because for years it was the Urban Meyer mantra of one game at a time. Win this game, great. Let's win the next. It's 1-0, 2-0, 3. Just that whole mantra, right? And then it became no secret, especially towards the tail end of the Pac-12. The goal, even though it had been the goal inside the locker room for years, they were very comfortable and very open about the goal is the Pac-12 championship. And then it was the goal is the CFP. Now you got Morgan sitting here saying that, and I'll read the quote. Just the goal is playing in January, get a national championship. We're going to do that here at the University of Utah. I've always believed that. It is there's nothing wrong with saying that. I wouldn't go as far as saying that was a guarantee. I was just saying that is a confidence thing that needs to be instilled into the program. Some of the other stuff I want to mention too, and then we can kind of kick into, maybe talking about the coaching staff and, some of the departures, some of the additions and so on. And then, make this a little bit of a shorter one. Right. But, the thing that touched me, everybody that's followed me over the years, and Derek, you've done podcasts with me and him as well, but everybody that knows me over the years knows how much I love Ron McBride. I jokingly call him Uncle Mac. I've known that guy since I was a little kid. I love that man. I saw him on the way into the presser, walked him in for a bit, and then another lady had came by that had known him for years. And so I went and, ended up talking to a few other people. But anyways, he goes and he sits in front of me. It was him and the Eccles family right in front of the media area. Morgan gets announced, and he goes and sits down. I don't think his butt hit the chair for more than 1 second. He popped right up and walked right off that stage. And it was the sweetest moment of him hugging McBride. He took a moment with Spence Eccles too, right? But just that moment with Ron McBride, the man that recruited him, okay? The man that means so much to Utah football, the man that, with everything going on with Kyle right now, everybody's sitting back saying, like, Mac deserves that statue first, right? But if that's a debate for another day, the foundation of Utah football, having a man that he recruited taking over the program all these years later, something like that was so cool to me. But just to see that emotion, right? And I'd love to get you guys' opinions on that, but I also want to just mention something else as well, because it was the quote. It was the quote of the press conference, okay? Because he's sitting up there, he's being emotional. Everybody sees it. I don't think his eyes were dry the entire time. And that's something that it's okay to show as a man, right? It really is. But he said, I'm a baby. You're going to see that today. I'm a baby. But man, our team is going to rip your face off, And then right after that, he started talking about, the innovation of Kevin McGivern, the new offensive coordinator, and what it can do and how close it is to Jason Beck's stuff, and how, they're going to be innovative. They're going to be physical, and they're going to want to win every game by 50 points. That's completely different from, some of those elements from Kyle, yes, but Kyle never wanted to win a game by 50 points, so kind of a packed in thing there, but, two elements, right? Just seeing that emotion and how cool that was for you, Derek, at least on this, because Zach, you've seen bits and pieces of it, right? But then also just tying that element in with McBride. And then also just that boldness that we were just talking about with the championship stuff too, right? With talking about, look, we're going to be innovative. We're going to be physical. We're going to go out there to beat you by 50 every time, you know?
Yeah. Now I'll maybe briefly touch on the McBride part, because I think that's a huge part, to me at least, looking at this program. The thing that I think is what's going to make Utah football different. Again, this has to play out. Things have to come to fruition. But what I'm excited for is that like nostalgia of college football is going away in many regards, right? You don't have that team family bond aspect. A couple teams are growing on that, and Utah, I believe, has doubled down on that with someone like Scalley, right? Like, I think I touched on it a little bit. I said it on X. Just seeing him make a statement at the Vegas Bowl, where his first sweater that he wore was a sweater that said family, right? And it's the Christian Fellowship Association that's up at the U that had its logo on there, and I thought that was really cool. Like that, like you could wear any sweater, right? Any shitty Under Armour sweater out there, he could have put on, but he put on that cool of a sweater. I'm like, man, that's a statement, right?
Yeah.
And I think it just ties into the McBride thing of just like, there's gonna be, if he can build this right, and again, it needs to be brought it to fruition, to Zach's point. But if he can build that right, like these aspects that he's pulling in, truly can help separate Utah from anything else out there, right? And really drive home that family aspect as we go into this iteration of NIL. Still have these components that I think will play in a bigger role as money becomes, you know, more abundant across everywhere. Everyone's getting paid.
Absolutely. Zach, with the point stuff, you know, are you the type that wants to beat people by 50, or are you the type that's wanting the Rock to just run it down their throats and beat the hell out of them and win by whatever it takes?
I mean, mindset, right? I think in a perfect world, you always want to win by 50. I think that's just coaches overall. Like, they always try to coach you to perfection, knowing that it's going to be imperfection. But I think the biggest thing is going to be how they win, right? I think that's for me. If I was a coach and I'm a head coach, you know, the margin of victory, yeah, obviously be great if you win by a certain number or whatever. But the way we win, how we win, right? Even when you lose, is how you lose, right? Are we doing things? Are we, you know, beating ourselves, right? And that's the biggest thing for me. If the way I would do it and look at it, depending on the points thing, I love it. Again, like I said, it's a new energy, right? It's a different vibe. It's totally different. Like you said, people wanted something fresh and new to some degree, right? And this is all this type of stuff that you're going to get with Scalley. So I can imagine when we see a 50-point win, right? Or we see, you know, these games start getting routed off into wins in the win column and things of that nature, kind of what does those press conference kind of look like, right? Is it going to be super tailored a certain way, or is he just kind of be, you know, off the cuff, raw, emotional, and just be human at the same time, right? But, you know, like I said, I'm only getting more excited to see what this team is going to do. Obviously, there's been a few dudes who's decided to leave out of the portal. I haven't super followed if we've gotten anybody to kind of replace those spots yet, or anybody who's going to.
Happened tonight, and it was big, yeah.
Okay, see, so I mean, like I said, I'm excited to see what Coach Scalley can do. I'm only continuing to hear good things. So I'm also just ready. I just pulled up the press conference. I'm gonna watch this thing later tonight. Just because I'm like, okay, I got to see, because that raw emotion that does something to players when they see their coach who cares that much. Like you guys talked about, Coach Scalley is from here. He's born into this. This is everything about who he is, and he said his logo has never changed, nor will it ever, right? So there's going to be an entirely different type of passion and care and love for this school, this football team, this football program that Coach Witt just couldn't give you. You know, I was just from the standpoint of he went to BYU, right? Like, people forget because he pushed this up, you know, from away from that quite a bit over the years. And like, I don't even recall if I remember he went to BYU when I was there. So that's how good of a job they did, right? But it's like, it's different for Coach Scalley. It just is. It's obviously, it's nothing towards Coach Witt. He didn't go there. And I think that's what, I think Weddle said it about, just him being a Utah man. Like, it's not an outside guy. This is not a guy that is trying to, like Derek said too, like trying to learn the slang and the lingo, and the whole go blue thing. And it's just different if you're a Michigan man, right? And it's just all different. And I think that's why we're starting to see some of these schools. I think about Mario Cristobal. Like, he's from Miami. He went to Miami, right? And everybody always talks about how it's the U back, right? And he doesn't say the U is back, right? So just like that, like you can just tell when the person has a totally different care and love and type of connection to the program. And hopefully we get some of those benefits that like a Miami is having, right? With a guy who's bred from this thing. And like I said, I'm excited to see what Coach Scalley can do.
For sure. And talking about the 50-point stuff, obviously you hear somebody say 50, that's a lot, right? That's an exaggeration. But to drill home a point that I've constantly said is I've constantly heard that Morgan is very insistent on being able to run an Urban Meyer style, fast-paced, up-tempo offense that gives people fits or like ulcers, gives defensive guys ulcers, like he mentioned in the press conference yesterday. That was another awesome line, right?
Let me ask you guys, Alex, a question on that note, because it's something that I think has been underrated. We obviously understand, like, we can dive into who left, right? I really don't care anymore. Like, it is what it is, right? From a coaching perspective, we saw a lot of it happening. But what really intrigued me on a couple things on the coach front, and Zach, Alex, I want your guys' opinion on this. When Scalley, when it's come out that when McGiven was hired, part of his process was how much Scalley involved the remaining coaches, Coach Ottawaya. I don't know who other coaches were involved in that, but he involved Coach Ottawaya, who was the remaining offense coach, right? And then also, I believe Damp and Bird and a couple others were heavily involved in those conversations, right, with across the board. And to me, that was like, whoa, that's a different aspect that I wouldn't necessarily expect, especially a new head coach to come in and do that and have that much, open trust. But I think it probably, one is why they went to McGiven over anyway, because when that was announced, everyone was like, whoa, hold on, let me look up and see who the hell that is, right? Yeah. But then I also think it definitely created an atmosphere where you're seeing Bird and Dan both being committed to staying right now, right? And knock on wood, I think it still is what it is. But like, it created that moment, right, where we're able to retain some of our most key players on that side. So I'm curious if you guys have thoughts on it, because I thought that was one of the coolest things that I heard about this, during that search.
Yeah, for real. Zach, let's hear your thoughts on it, because I got a very specific thing I want to talk about. So curious what you've got to say on it, man.
Yeah, I love the fact that he did that with the coaches. One, talk about family and all that type of stuff, and that's just another layer to it. And obviously with the players, specifically the two quarterbacks, having to be comfortable with this hire and things of that nature. And that just tells you where the leadership is on this type of a team at the same time as well. That kind of just reminds you of some type of, like NFL-esque type vibes, right? Like where, obviously you don't fire somebody, right, without, the face of the franchise per se, kind of, either signing off on it or something like that, or trading the guy. And, it's a really like a superstar type guy. You trading them, and, like usually that franchise person knows and has some type of a say. So I love that he's doing that, because again, he didn't have to, obviously, and the buy-in from the players is probably going to even just multiply. He's going to go to the players for feedback, but also he's a former player. He's closer to players, to some degree, right, than Coach Witt was. And it's different when you become a player's coach, right? And I feel like Scalley might be that type of a coach. I wouldn't say Coach Witt, and Derek, you probably can speak to this obviously as well, and because there's 2 different time periods. I mean, Coach Witt was probably, I'm pretty sure, 2 different people in those years apart. But for me, I didn't never get a feeling that he was a player's coach. Like I've seen player coaches. I've had some in NFL, and he was not a player's coach. So I think with Scalley, I kind of get a vibe just from him doing that alone, that he might be closer to a player's coach. Obviously, we'll see as time goes and, you know, more stuff comes out and we go to see practices and things of that nature. But I feel like, you know, that only, especially in this generation of players, you got to be a player's coach almost. You can't be, you know, kind of, you know, almost, for lack of better words, like a dictator, right? You got to be able to, you know, speak to the players, coincide. Like, shoot, I mean, Buffalo, our coach would come up and have lunch with us, dinner with us at the table, right? And guys, now some guys would be like, what the hell? But that just made you look at your coach totally different. But, you know, so hopefully Scalley is that type of guy. You know, he lets, like Dan Pierre talked about, fun, right? I don't think that was thrown in there just willy-nilly, right? I think that was thrown in there because we know when we got to those bowl games, that shit was work. You know, we were still outside in December practicing here before you go to the damn bowl site. So Coach Witt was different, you know, but I think, you know, I love the fact that he did that, though.
You know, so the ones just listening on audio, oh man, you should have seen Derek smiling and laughing the entire time Zack was talking about Witt not being a player's coach. But hey, his process worked, right?
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah,
a lot of wins.
So the one thing I want to touch on is, you know, this entire time, one thing I've absolutely loved that Scalley has done is it's not about me. It's the players. It's the players. It's the people that are associated with this program, right? There will always be another me. There will always be another coach after me, right? I'm not bigger than the program. I love how he's drilled that home where, you know, sometimes it might be a coach maybe trying to do like damage control or like trying to put on a good face or something. It's so genuine with him, and you hear it and you see it in every element that he's dealing with and talking about right now. And it goes back to what you guys were just talking about, right? Where involving the key players on offense, involving the leadership council, involving Devin Dampier and Bird Ficklin, you know, all those things are so important and so crucial that, you know, there were some intriguing other names that popped up. Okay. But at the same time too, when you look at it, you know, Jason Beck was Broncos coordinator last year. Kevin McGivern was Broncos coordinator this year. I mean, I can go on for a half hour on what drives me nuts about Bronco, whatever, right? But he has a very innovative offensive style on how he wants to approach things now, and Utah's benefiting from it, you know. And this was something that, you know, Scalley sat everybody down, and they saw just how similar everything was, but also how much more explosive it could be in certain aspects. And you know, that's what put McGivern over the top. And that is honestly at this moment, right? Because again, until that transfer portal is closed, you just don't know. We were laughing about the Washington quarterback, right? But at this point in time, the level of guys, I mean, JJ Buchanan went to the portal today. Okay. That was a big blow. Let's be honest. But then Utah brings in those 2 wide receivers right after that, one being Pagan from Utah State. Kevin McGivern's guy. That was huge. Okay. You know, but at this point in time, I mean, you are looking at a healthy nucleus of the playmakers still returning, and that is gigantic. Okay. That is absolutely gigantic. You know, again, don't want to jinx it because, again, we all know how this portal works, and you can also sign something and still be off on your way. It happened to Utah last year. It's happening in Washington now, you know, and so it's a very, very unique time. But I love that he involved everybody, and I love the odds of why it was so vocal about it too, because nobody would have known about that. I don't know that Scalley would have even brought that up in the press conference had Ottawai had not been so vocal about it, which I'm telling you guys, like this coaching staff, and we can get into this on another one because I know we were wanting to keep this short. I'm telling you guys, I'm so burned out. Again, check with me tomorrow morning. I'll even see if I remember doing a podcast tonight. But I think it's gonna be valuable to talk about the coaching additions on maybe the next podcast, and then maybe there's a little bit more clarity by then too with the players. Definitely some big losses. JJ Smith, Teo, and then the two defensive tackles, Dallas and Jonah, which was a crazy surprise tonight. I'm trying to think if I'm missing any other outrageous ones right off the top of my head. But look, the portal taketh and the portal giveth, right? Utah's doing a solid job so far. So I'm really excited to see what else they're able to bring in. And man, the offense is looking good right now. Even with you can.
They picked up, I think, we picked up a top safety transfer from Oklahoma. I'm really excited about, right? So addressing that need. D lineman from Wyoming. That boy is a farmer. The dude was
need big bodies.
My goodness. I was like, that is a big white boy, being politically correct. And so, no, I think, he had some great, from a run game, he looks like he could do very well in there. Looks a little stiff in the hips when it comes to pass rush, but from a run stopping, you look at losing Dallas Vakalahi, that could be a fit. DN from Texas State, off the edge, great pickup. And then to your point, the wide receivers that we picked up tonight, those are huge gets, because I believe in McGivens' program. Obviously a tight end is a tight end, but I think his program really wants to highlight that main receiver and really emphasize that as part of its main weaponry when it's going downfield. And so that's rumblings I've heard that I kind of want to dive into spring, how he approaches that. Right. And so, yeah, to your point, the portal giveth, portal taketh. And I think we're doing pretty well right now in that regard.
Man, Zach, look at that, dude. Derek's so jazzed. I think he's going to need to be doing a bunch of film reviews for us.
Hey,
man, I'll go to practice, man. I'll go to practice.
I don't know. I can't remember who said it. I think it was Weddle, though, but opening practices to the fans. I don't know what the rules are on that. And getting alumni out and stuff like that, just getting everybody back down there and stuff like that to see these spring practices, when fall camp comes and stuff like that. That'd be a really, really dope way to get everybody kind of riled up. But I just wanted to hit that real quick. But to my last point was that as long as, the new OC comes in and can really give us a passing game, right? Because I think as good as the run game was this year, I really don't see that again, because again, that's really damn hard to do. Like, that's really hard. Like, we got spoiled just watching it this year because we had two dudes first round picks. Beck really called that. Like, at the end of the day, just because you got the players, you still need the type of person that can call these plays, the right plays, and and things of that nature to do that. And the players did a great job of executing. But I wouldn't bank much on replicating that at that same level. So I'm really can't wait to see what he can do with the passing game, because that's the only place I can really give any type of I don't want to say judge, but just like critique, right? Obviously that's it. I can't critique anything else because the run game has been the run game. Doesn't matter, right? We talked about it the other day. Had probably 20 OCs. It doesn't matter. The run game has been the run game, right? But the passing game, I think that's where we can take a leap, hopefully, and we can go beat those schools, because, again, nothing has changed. BYU is going to be there, right? And Texas Tech is going to be there. Those are the two people that you're looking at that, you have to figure out, how do we score points? Right, you have to be able to score points, and obviously, when we watched those two games this past season, we did not score points. We beat up a lot of other teams, the Baylor's and
ASU,
ASU and Colorado, right? Like, great. But that's not what we aiming for, right? Just like how they fired John Harbaugh today, right? Or yesterday. I can't remember.
Wild.
Right?
Wild.
18 years, right?
Yeah.
But once you get to a certain level, and I think the program is at a certain level now, right? You've put the Pac-12 to sleep. You've come from Mountain West and all that type of stuff. You are a program that people are looking at in the national media and have a lot of respect for, right? You're being judged on, one, getting to this playoff. That's the first thing that we're going to be judged on. And Harbaugh won a Super Bowl, but after that, you got to win, right? We've come from, okay, cool, we were there. Now this program is here with even more heights to continue to go capture. So everybody's looking at this school and Coach Scalley right now to really, really catapult this thing to where Coach Witt couldn't take it, right? And maybe he could have if he, got another 5 years, who knows? But right now, no one cares about that anymore. It's about what Coach Scalley do. And I'm sure there's a lot of pressure, Alex, about, the other things that people are talking about and things of that nature. That's your lane where you're tapped in at. But I can only imagine because people are looking at this school and knowing that we can go do things, and we're going to have some good resources now as well at the same time to go ahead and try to match that.
Absolutely, man. I want to make one more comment, and then if you guys have closing thoughts, and then let's just get out of here. All right. But Zach, you mentioned this stuff with the run in the past and everything. These McGivern and Beck are very, very eerily similar with how they go about and how they attack things. Okay. The one difference is, and the one thing that can be very intriguing for a lot of people is that McGivern likes to throw the ball a lot more. And that's something that was pointed out to me by just a contact pretty close to the program, that he was saying the program is extremely excited about something like that, just to still keep that run game element, right, and make it be so predominant, but have a good enough passing game that it's going to keep everybody just on their toes that much more. So that's something for everybody to look forward to, just knowing that slight difference, even though the terminology, the schematics, so many things are so similar. That's why Kevin McGivern is the guy. That's why he got the job. And look, trust Morgan Scalley, because he even said yesterday, he's like, wait until everybody sees what this guy can do with Power 4 conference resources. So that's intriguing. You got to trust everybody in the program that was able to be a part of that too, right?
Yeah.
So
it's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah. Closing thoughts from either of you?
I can't wait for spring.
We'll have plenty to talk about before then, but we want to see spring, right?
Yeah, we definitely want to see that. That's going to tell us a lot.
So, Derek?
No, man, same. Be really interesting to see how offensive line, just with Jordan Gross, specifically for me, coming in straight from a high school rank. Obviously, his credentials speak for themselves from a player perspective. It's going to be really fun this spring, something I'm going to be lasered in on, just seeing how he takes on this new role, right? There's a whole complexity of coaching college guys, but also the recruiting side and all that, see how that develops. But I'm excited. I'm stoked that we got Jordan Gross as the offensive line coach. I think it could be amazing. So
that's a huge one, man. And we'll talk about the coaches that much more. I just wanted to kind of spend enough time talking about a little bit of the portal, but the presser, right? And hey, if you guys are subscribed to UteNation.com, you guys would have known early in the week of the Vegas Bowl week who was out there and who was around the team and what was going to be coming. So, I'm just going to say, right? So, Zach, close us out, man.
Yeah, man, happy to get back on here with you guys and talk a little Utah football. So excited to see what Coach Scalley can do, and we got a lot more information coming at you real soon. So make sure you guys continue to always like, subscribe, tell a friend. Make sure you are on Apple. We're on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube. So always check in with us. We appreciate it. And as always, go Utes.